Today's episode is a highlight episode, kind of like those year-end top 10s you see all over TV and Spotify, etc. But with close to 190 episodes out the door, we had plenty to choose from. So to keep this special episode a little bit on the rails, I decided to go back and pull some sound bites from a few of our favorites who either did, quote, it, coached it, or both. All six are true St. Louis Hammers. All six know more about the game than most people on socials claiming to know everything about the game. And all six were willing to sit down with us jokers. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel on Spotify or Apple Pods so we can keep having these incredible conversations brought to you. First up, Chaminade grad, MLS All-Star, World Cup alum, Brad Davis. Brad breaks down a little bit of the difference between development and competition and where they diverge at the highest level.
With development comes winning, in my opinion, right? So I think one of the things that needs to be understood is, which is a misconception, is if I go win a high school state championship, or if I win a state cup, it's not the same as winning an MLS Academy conference or going to MLS Next Fest and winning, right? Yeah. So they're two different environments. You can't expect to be 6 months in a high school environment training in one way with either sometimes, and sorry, there's only a few schools that have coaches that really train to a level in this environment. You can't expect to go from that environment into our club environment and get the same expectations. Like, I'm coaching a U19 or U19 ECNL team right now, and I can talk about the mindset of the unrealistic expectations. It is real, and it is hard to deal with. Those real, honest conversations are hard things to have, especially with boys. They come in, we want to win a national championship. However, I can't make it here. I don't want to I can't travel here. I'm going to play high school.
Yeah, and I really like Freddie's custard and all that other stuff.
You can't. But your point about development and winning, you can't win without realistic expectations and without that development. So I'll tell you right now, if I had this team for 6 months that I'm coaching right now and play in the league, and we get to the final or get to through our league, if we're lucky enough to make it to the playoffs and do something, it would be fantastic. But if I had this team for 10 months, it would be a drastic difference.
Yeah,
it would be a drastic difference on what their game looks like, what their mentality, to your point in regards to Kevin Kalish, about what their mentality is like, right, and what the expectation is if they want to go and play at the next level, because you can't fit that into a 6-month, 7-month team. You're trying to break habits the first 2 months,
right?
Truthfully, you're trying to and set a standard of. So right there, you only have a couple months of real good training and playing with these kids. So to be able to take from one environment and put them into a different one and expect them to truthfully understand it, that's difficult to do. So for me, on your question in regards to winning versus development, whatever journey that you want to take, I'm good with.
Just have fun.
Have fun, but have realistic expectations.
DeSmet, Spartan, Hoosier, and MLS head coach, Pat Noonan. Jared and I grabbed a little time with Coach Noonan on the road in Cincinnati and got his opinions on the, quote, next best things and it as well. Let's go.
This is like the rivalry talk. We drive this narrative of the next best thing because we see one good game. We do it, at the professional level with, the 17-year-old that comes onto the field and has a great game. And now we're talking about them for, the national team, or we're talking about them in Europe. And let's get past like maybe a 6-month or a year of consistency and how you perform. We are all over the, this is the next best thing. And there's a couple names, I won't use them, of guys right now that are professional players that a couple years ago were talked about like this was going to be the savior, and they're already bench players and bouncing around from league to league. It's just, it's not fair to the actual players, because I don't think even the 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old is mentally mature enough to be able to handle that at a professional level. So you know, the 13-year-old kid who just took over at MLS or at the Flex tournament that had a great tournament. He can handle all this social media attention to him scoring a bicycle kick, and now he's the next best thing. It's too much pressure on him, and unfortunately, it's the world we live in, and people are going to drive that narrative. But I like to see consistency in people and players performing before you're, going to crown them the next best thing in terms of U.S. soccer talent.
Yeah. Everyone's favorite academy coach, Tim Leonard. No one has seen more players through to the MLS Next Academy system here in St. Louis than Coach Lenny. He talks about player development, the effective time, and the standout factors.
Yeah. So the it thing. I mean, what I kind of pick up on is really intrinsic motivation and competitiveness. How motivated is that kid day in, day out to train, and how much does he hate to lose day in, day out? It's like Michael Jordan. I was a huge fan of Michael Jordan's, and I'm sure all you are.
It's your class of '93 kid.
Absolutely,
I get it.
So that intrinsic motivation and that competitiveness. What does it look like every single day? And that for me is a big it factor. Of how far that kid's going to go. I worked, and going off of Jared's second part of the question, his question reminds me of Steve Ralston. Steve Ralston did not even start on his high school team his senior year. He went to Oakville High School. And
Robin.
And was a spot starter and went and played for Pat McBride, led the league, led the country in assists, had played with the U23s, so Billy Baumhoff, Jamie Poznansky.
Yep.
Who
just came from like South Carolina via SLU High. Yeah. This guy's Oakville Junior College.
So you want to talk about physical maturity? Steve was 130 pounds his senior year. He worked in the weight room. He worked on the track. He got himself so fit that he led the junior college, and then he went to FIU and led the NCAA in assists, and went on to have an unbelievable playing career.
Number 1 or number 2 in the MLS.
Steve and I used to. I used to have sleepovers at Steve's house because we grew up playing like U10, U12 age groups together, and we would just, we'd play in his backyard. He had 2 goals set up, and we'd watch Goal, from the '86.
Oh yeah.
Over and over again on VHS. He was just a guy you knew was going to make it at some point, just his work ethic, and that's to your point, Jared. If they have that work ethic, if it's instilled in them, and they really want to do well, they're going to do well.
So I'm going to ask you to take this step further and use this as a moment for the parents that are listening to really understand. I'm going to extrapolate or ask you to extrapolate off of that answer. And that is when you start to fold in the technical skills, the drills, the extra touches, the juggling, quote, training.
The Gallagher Soccer School aspect of it.
Yeah, correct.
So important.
Let the parent know why you guys focus on that so much, in so much that you just said that what you're looking for is competitiveness. You're looking for drive, but they have to be able to perform. So talk about that kind of triangle of competitive, physical training. How do you approach that at a very let's just call it what it is. It's a sensitive age.
Very sensitive.
Because you're prepubescent and, kids in the middle of it.
Correct.
How do you manage that process amongst those 3 areas?
Yeah, very carefully. Not too quick to judge. Let kids develop. I know Bertie, for instance, your son, he struggled physically there for 6 months where you were like, man, is it
6 years?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Are his knees hurting? Are his ankles hurting? Is his back? They're all growing. So it's very. You have to approach it with a lot of patience, and you have to do what you feel is right within the game. And at the club, we feel like technically developing kids so they're not behind. But tying those two together. They have to, if they're going to play on our top teams at 14 and 15, they have to have a little bit of both. They have to have that competitiveness, and they also have to have a little bit of sense of the game, technical ability. So you've got to tie it all together at some point. But where I'm at 13, you get them off a U12 team, you have to go through the weeds a little bit of what you're working with. And then, then you help, you promote, you move kids up if you need to move them up, and just keep challenging them.
Next up, Mike Sorber, better known in the OG circles as Pete's son. Having played in some of the most competitive environments in the world, Coach Sorber talks about what the best landscape for a player looking to get to the next level might look like. Let's go.
As it applies to academies versus good competitive high schools, where is that right now?
It's simple. There's not one answer, and it's not club, and it's not high school, and it's not academy, and it's not college, and it's not pro. It's all of it. It's all important. It should be all inclusive. I think it's up to the individual to decide. Now, if you ask me my opinion, it depends on the individual player as to what is most important. And that is not easy to filter out or to discuss. It's sort of like when you want to get married, you know. When you're dealing with a kid who plays soccer, what is his passion level? What is his talent level? We're going to have a lot of discussions on it. Some are going to say, I don't think he's good enough. Look, I take myself. I'm a late bloomer. I was small. I'm not the most physical. I don't fit the St. Louis rough and tough, blue collar sort of physicality, but I do fit the mentality. What would be best for me would not have been high school, even though it was fun. It would have been a better environment, a pro environment, so to speak.
Yeah.
That could have helped progress me, I think, farther. I think I had more potential, so to speak, but you have to be exposed to that level at an earlier age. So for some kids, I think it's great that they play with whatever club. It doesn't have to be an MLS club. I think it's great that some kids play high school and college and still can become pros. Do I think they can maximize their ability? No, I don't think they can max out, because I think you lose time. But I think there's a place for all of it.
Another Hoosier, also an SLSG alum, Will Bruin. As one of the most prolific scorers in MLS history, who better to discuss the it factor for nines and beyond, and pointing out his own reality regarding hating to lose more than liking to win.
As a lifelong nine, a striker, a forward, whatever anybody wants to call it, with a lot of goals on your resume at a multitude of levels, and now you're shifting into the coaching academy training environment. Talk a little bit about, and this is a common theme, we talk about the it, but I want to ask you about the it from a goal scorer's perspective, because you've lived it and you probably just did it organically. And you've had coaches that have given you a lot of insight or drive or motivation, et cetera, et cetera. And you've had teammates that have been all over the spectrum, top to bottom, quality-wise. But now that you're entering into that, the coaching chapter, when you look at these kids, when you watch the kids, when you talk to a kid that is an offensive-minded player, what are you looking for, and what are you saying to them? Like, what are the simplistic little, hey, think about this?
So put yourself in good positions, first of all. Like, when I talk to the center forwards on the team, I'm like, look, you can't score goals if you're not in the right position or you're ending up in the right position. Second of all, it's like you said the it, and it's so easy to say, like, what's the it when you're looking for it? Because it's honestly, it's something that's hard, but when you see it, and like you watch some of these players and you can see their technical ability, you can see their spatial awareness, you can see the way they're thinking the game. And then I consider that like the it. And, guys that want to score, they have the hunger to win, whether it's 5v5 small-sided games or possession or anything. You can see that stuff on a daily basis. And that's something that like you can't teach. You can't teach desire. You can't teach willingness to work. You can't teach willingness to win, want to win. I always hated losing more than I liked winning, and I think that's something that is really important for people. And you see it. You see it in trainings. I mean, you even see it in. I won't go into detail, but you even see it in the league with teams. Like teams are happy to get draws on the road, like just holding on for dear life. I'm like, why aren't you trying to win? Like,
I want to add a part B question to this, and my question to you is, when you watch them, how much of it is what they do with the ball versus what they're doing off the ball?
So, from my experience so far, and the only experience I have with the younger kids is in the U15s is this past like 8 months that I've been doing with my course. You can tell the ones that see the play develop before it even happens, and guys making runs to initiate plays, and you can see the players that take too much time on the ball and dribble too much. So to answer your question there, I think guys that see, and I'm talking from offensive attacking perspective,
right? Like
wingers that see the space and when to make the run and when to come inside and drop, or when to drop into a pocket and connect. You can see that stuff. And I think as each team's academy builds their own like philosophy on how they want to play integrated up to the first team, it'll change based on their style. But I mean, from what I've seen so far with Austin's academy, it's been really cool to like see how some of these guys are like tactically much superior than I was at their age.
Oh, yeah.
And finally, my fellow GC brother in arms, Steve Trittschuh. This U.S. men's national team legend with a resume miles long at the highest level talks about identifying the next level talent and discusses the challenge of coaching those players to the actual next level. Let's go. Thanks for listening.
In your own words, define what you feel is it in a young player, and what do you do with it?
That's a big question. There are a lot of good players here in St. Louis. Personality for me is one thing. I look for guys that have personalities. There are good players out there that they're good just because they're good, and maybe they don't really care a whole lot. I don't know if you guys can get that. But there are players out there that are good, but they have a personality about it too, and they have that passion to want to learn, to come training every day, and to have a great attitude in training. There's so much going on with these kids these days, and whether it's school, whether it's with that tweeter thing or whatever. No, but there's so many things for these guys these days to distract them from that. But there are some special players out there that have that right attitude, that passion, the will to get better, the will to get to the next level. Right now, I see very few of them, though. There are like I said, there's good players. There are good players everywhere in our city, but there's only few that I can see that have that passion to do it, though. And it's not easy, but it's some guys are just going to be happy just to play college soccer.
Yeah.
But there's right now I only see a few that want to get really to that next level.
For you as a lifelong defender, does that kind of influence, the type of players that you look at, that you look for? Do you look for kids that are engaging leaders, maybe a little bit more calm? Because there's a difference between an active, a kid with high energy that is, maybe aggressive versus empathetic versus those things. Is there kind of, just one more layer that you could describe as far as what type of leader you look for in that kid for your team or otherwise.
Yeah, if you're building Mr. Potato Head, what are the 4 parts that you're going to try to do? I think is the question.
Yeah, pretty
Well,
good.
I mean, if you look at players, there's the 4 parts: the technical, tactical, physical, and the mental part of it. A lot of our players have that technical part for sure.
Yeah.
There are players that they can get better tactically. I mean, that just comes from playing the game, and physically. We've got players,
Yes.
I mean, and the thing right now for the players are speed. I mean, that's one of the things that everybody looks for.
And it's not necessarily overall speed, run from here to the wall, the fastest.
No.
It's speed of making correct decisions. Yeah. It's awareness, the speed part of it, to position right tactically.
That kind of all is encompassing the speed part of it.
Yes.
Especially the decision part of it. Some players are good, but they're slow in their decision making, but
you can see it.
And that's so like that last part, the mental part of it, the psychological part of it. That's the one where that's kind of probably the hardest one to like determine what it's going to be like. But I do see players out there that do have that mental. Strength to get to that next level. Now, will they? That's there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, absolutely. I was lucky. Sometimes it's just right place, right time, and people and things like that. And so, it's tough. It's not easy. In what we're doing, trying to develop guys. We can say these guys are going to college, and that's perfect. But how can we get those guys to that next level?
Yeah.
Can you teach it? Can you actually? You can cultivate it, but can you force a player to get it at that clip and that grasp, to be able to grasp it that much, to be able to be like, that's a pro.
That's the hardest part of it. We get with these guys, a couple hours a day, maybe 4 days a week or whatever it is.
Right.
But what's going on at home? And that's or what's going on at school. And so that's the big thing about it is like, we have them for a little bit, but then that's great. You're focused on it for 2 hours a day, but now what's going on beyond that? And so that's kind of hard to control. But that's life, I guess.
Yeah. Welcome to the real world. Right? Thanks for listening, everybody. This episode of Soccer Dad Pod was brought to you by Crescent Plumbing Supply. So be sure to go and check them out, 6614 Olive. Also, Ambush indoor season is upon. Go to Ambush on socials, click the link, get your tickets. And if you have a little one that you think might have it, but you're struggling with the path to college in particular, Prospect 2 player Tony Delafeld over there. Again, Prospect 2 player. Go check him out on socials. Check out his resume. He'll be able to help you out. Thank you for listening. Soccer Dad Pod. We are out of here. Like, review, follow, share. We appreciate all the support. Take care.